Let's learn how to get a killer professional sounding guitar tone with just one mic, so that you can get results like this. There are so many things that can affect the guitar sound you record, but in this video I want to show you how microphone placement on the amp or cab can drastically change the guitar tone that you record. The mic that we're going to be using is a Shure SM57. It's an absolute classic when it comes to recording guitar amps and cabs, and it's super cheap. So if you're in any doubt at all, just go out and grab one of these and it will last you forever. So the first consideration when it comes to a killer guitar tone is amp choice, and that will largely depend on the kind of sound that you want. We're going to start off in this video with clean and crunch tones, and for that my go-to is a Vox. And set up in the other room is one of my favourite guitar amps of them all. It's a limited edition Vox AC15. Now I've brought the amp out of the studio and into the next room, which is actually a living space, and there's two reasons that I've made that decision. Firstly, I can monitor the sound of the amp in the studio through my monitors and adjust as needed, rather than having to keep recording sections and going back and forth. Secondly, the main studio is heavily treated and a smaller room in comparison. To my ears, this chokes the sound of the amp and makes it sound a bit small and boxy. So by bringing it in here, the sound's a bit more open, because we're in a much bigger airy space. Now, there are no rules when it comes to recording and producing great music. However, if there were, this would be a pretty good one. Get the exact guitar tone that you want in the room. Choose your guitar, amp and pedals based on the sound that you want, and get any amp and pedal settings such as drive, EQ, etc. dialed in beforehand. The sound in the room should be the exact sound that you want to capture. I'm a big fan of getting things right at source when it comes to recording, because it really does force you into making better sounding records. It's not always easy, but it is worth it. The only things that I may leave off when it comes to recording guitars are delays and reverbs. Those can be very easily added afterwards in your DAW to taste. Okay, so there are two really good rules of thumb when it comes to miking up a guitar amp or cab. The first is how close you put the microphone to the speaker. Cardioid microphones like this one will have what we call proximity effect. That means that you have more low end the closer the microphone is to the source, and you can use that to your advantage. So if you want more lows, just bring the mic closer in. If you want less, if it's too much, if it's too boomy, then you can simply just move the microphone away. Secondly is where you position the mic in relation to the speaker itself. Now this amp has one 12-inch speaker, and the centre of the cone is about in the middle of the cloth. With the mic right in the centre of the cone, you're going to get a bright sound, but the further you move it away, so if you move it more towards the edge, that sound will get less bright and duller. Again, you can use this to your advantage. If the sound that you're monitoring is quite harsh and tinny, then you can try just moving the microphone closer to the edge. So let's start with the mic right on the centre. We'll get this plugged in, and then we'll start moving it closer to the edge, see how that affects the sound. So that sounds okay, it's a nice guitar tone, but for me it's a little bit thin and not enough body. So I'm going to go and move the microphone away from the centre. We're going to go halfway between the centre of the cone and the edge. Let's see how that affects the sound. So instantly, that sounds way better. And to be honest, that's probably the sound I would record right now if I was in a session. There's more weight in the low mids, and it's just a little bit less harsh and thin. Just from moving the microphone, we're literally talking a couple of inches at most. For the sake of this video, let's now move the microphone right onto the edge of the cone, see how that sounds. Now that is drastically different. It is much, much darker. There's less in the high mids and the highs, and it's much more focused on the mid-range and the low mids. It's a good guitar tone. It's not one that I would typically use. I prefer the Vox for the glassy, chimey cleans. However, if you're doing something a little bit more old school, a little bit grungy, then that could absolutely work. And all of those three different sounds are literally just moving the microphone inches at a time. So now let's crank the gain up, go back to the center, see what we're getting then. So that's a perfectly okay guitar sound. I can imagine that blending quite well with other amps. However, if this is going to be the main rhythm, for me it's too bright. Again, I want a little bit more body. So I'm going to go move the microphone just a couple of inches off center, halfway between the middle and the edge of the cone. And let's compare. So instantly you can hear the difference. There's more weight and there's more body in the low mids. Let's move it right out to the edge of the cone and do a final comparison. So drastically different again, just from moving the mic a couple of inches, much, much darker and much more focused in the mid-range. Now, if you're a singer-songwriter or you're playing a band, then it's likely one of your main goals is to get heard by thousands, if not millions of people. And some of the best ways to do this is to get as much radio play as possible and also connect with promoters who can get you on bigger stages, including support slots and festivals. Now, the thing that's going to get you noticed by those radio stations and promoters is your EPK. If your EPK looks bad, it looks unprofessional, and it doesn't have the information that it needs to have, then your music will not even get listened to. They will open your email, they'll look at this terrible EPK, and they will just delete it out of their inbox forever, and not even give your music a chance. A really good, well-presented EPK that includes all of the relevant information is almost guaranteed to get your music heard, even if it is only for 20 or 30 seconds. It gets you that foot in the door. At that point, it is up to your music to do the talking. However, your EPK is that first impression, and so it needs to be good and it needs to put you to the top of the pile and make you stand out. Now, to help with this, I've created a template that you can use to create a great looking professional EPK within minutes, and it is completely free. This will ensure that people take notice of your music when you send it through to important people like radio stations, bloggers and promoters, making it much more likely that you will get access to all of those opportunities. It is 100% free to use. The link is in the description below. Go check it out.